What is going on, everyone? It's Ultimate Spy 53 here, and welcome to another episode of Reviewed number 135. And today, I'm going to be reviewing Superhero Movie. So what did I think of Superhero Movie? It was funny. Yeah, it was funny, just not great. Because it's a parody of Spider-Man. Clearly, it's a spoof, parody, all that stuff, and it kind of breaks the fourth wall just a little bit. And it does feature a lot of other Marvel characters like Wolverine, Storm, Invisible Girl, and even Human Torch. I think Cyclops is in there, but it's like a different version. It's like weird. Although it's just a really funny movie. I mean, it's meant to be like a parody of Spider-Man 1. Most of the scenes are a parody, like they're directly from that, but I think it's really funny, honestly. It's very adult, and just, I think the second time I saw this movie, it was hilarious. I mean, I laughed so hard, and then after a while, you kind of get tired of it, I don't know, it's kind of like watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and, having the humor when you first see in the theater, hilarious, and then after a while, it just kind of boring with the humor. It's the same kind of humor, because you expect it, and for this movie, it was the same thing. It's like I saw it, and then I saw it again, and I saw it again, and it was like the same thing over and over again. And it was like, ugh, it's funny. I mean, there are some things that still made me laugh, but it's like still like, ha ha ha, kind of chuckle a little bit, but it wasn't like an amazing movie. I don't think it was amazing. It scored 70%. It's not a great movie, but it's just funny. It's just a really funny movie. I think that it kind of makes fun of the superhero genre. I guess in a way, kind of like how Deadpool does, but it's just like it spoofs. It's like the spoofiest movie ever. I mean, it's from the same people who made Scary Movie. I haven't personally seen those movies because I don't really want to because they're horror movies, but even then, it's like I know, based on the poster itself, I know what it looks like because I've seen the Scary Movie posters and I know what exactly they look like. It's people, different characters sitting in a theater basically. It was this movie was just like it was weird and funny and all over the place. I think the cringiest moment of this movie, I mean, there's a lot of crazy sexual references in this movie, a lot of like really fucked up stuff. And it was like, especially when Professor X first calls Rick Riker, to contact him about, his power growing. It's like his his screen buffers because it's like the early 2000s, and it's like, ugh. And then it's like, his screen buffers, and you can hardly make out what he's saying, and it's just like, it sounds so wrong. But when Rick Riker first comes to the X Mansion, which is not the X Mansion you think of, it's just like it's basically a parody of the X Mansion, obviously. In fact, when we see the sign for the Academy, the X Mansion sign, it says Xavier School for the Non-Asian Gifted. It's just hilarious. This movie has so many good jokes in it, it's made it really funny. Not a good movie. It's far from a good movie. It's just it's just like it's a man movie. It's okay. It's a bit weird to watch from the cringy scenes, like when the Black Professor actually, because Professor actually in this movie, because it's it kind of shares the same world as the Marvel Universe, sort of. I mean, it is a parody, but like it kind of makes one an idea it makes one of the superhero genre kind of like with Deadpool again, like I said before. But with this movie, they have a black Professor X, which is weird. I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's like I'm pretty sure Professor X was never black in the comics. Pretty sure. So they cast a black actor to play Professor X. And he takes him to the X Mansion, shows him all the people that are there, and then he comes across his wife, who is also bald and also black, and children who are also black and also bald. And it's just like, I did not like that. I mean, I don't have anything against black people. I just don't. Ugh, no. Professor X, I'm pretty sure has no, wife or anything, and I think it was pretty unnecessary for them to design Mrs. Xavier after Xavier himself. Like all the family is based off of him, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would they be bald? Why would his wife and his kids be bald? It's cringy, like cringy the way you like. I don't want to keep watching this. This is so weird, and it's so uncomfortable. Yeah, definitely uncomfortable. And I feel like it was weird to see that. But honestly, he's pretty funny. Is a pretty, Professor X in this movie was pretty funny. I mean, it's like the idea is like, oh, it's set in the same world as this. It's like all other things like that, but it also breaks the fourth wall a lot because it's a parody movie. It moves the entire superhero genre essentially, just like Deadpool. So, and a lot of the same scenes in this movie are mirrored of Spider-Man 1. I mean, it's a direct parody of Spider-Man 1. All the same stuff as there. I mean, there are some differences, but it's a lot of the same stuff you saw in that movie or in this movie. Like the beginning of the movie, even the lab thing. Except like the really fun part about that is that when Rick is first like he is bitten by the Dragonfly, classic. You know, the same thing with the spider, and then he accidentally gets H2O9 on himself, which attracts animals sexually to him, and so they literally start fucking him, and it's just like, I mean, yeah, it's an adult film, so you can kind of get the idea, but it's a very adult movie, so yes, there is sex in it, in that extent at least, in the idea of what's actually going on, because the animals do kind of, they fuck him, so it's kind of gross, but yeah, I definitely can see a lot of the movie was parodied of Spider-Man 1, like most of it, if not all of it, was a parody of Spider-Man 1. Like a lot of it. I mean, a lot of it was like a joke. Like they took some of the scenes and they made a joke out of it. Like one of the scenes when Rick, who is obviously a parody of Peter Parker, discovers his ability to wall crawl, he uses it to breakdance. Like he discovers he can wall crawl and then he decides to breakdance. And as the trailer shows, a cat decides to run up the wall. It's like, wait, does the cat have powers too? I don't know. But it's a funny little idea, like that fact that that can actually happen. It's just like it's a really weird how it's like how he's breakdancing instead of crawling up the walls. It's just like it's so weird, but also really funny. And that was one of the scenes they parodied. What was that? I mean, again, most of the movie was a parody of Spider-Man 1. There's a lot of scenes where they either put a joke onto it, a very very funny joke, because again, this movie is a pure comedy movie within the superhero genre of Marvel, sort of, I guess. It's not really Marvel, it's just kind of like, I guess, parodying Marvel, because there are Marvel characters that pop up, like I said before. In terms of it being within the Marvel Universe, it's not. It's just, I guess it's like parodying the Marvel Universe, I guess, sort of. Because, like, Dragonfly is a spoof of Spider-Man. You have Jill, who is a spoof of Mary Jane. You have her boyfriend, who's Lance, the blonde guy. He's a parody of Flash. And it's all parodies of that everything. And it's hilarious. I mean, Jill is obviously, the mirror of Mary Jane, this beautiful, in this case, blonde girl, because Mary Jane is this beautiful orange-haired girl played by Kirsten Dunst, and then in this movie, Jill is this beautiful blonde girl parody of Mary Jane. She's played by Sarah Paxton in this movie. And also, she does provide a vocal for the end of the movie, which is really good because she's a singer and she's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, if you think that she's parodying Mary Jane, she's doing it really well because she is gorgeous. There's no doubt about it. She is beautiful. I mean, obviously, most love interest in movies like that are, but I definitely think that all the movie was a spoof. All the characters were a spoof of everything. I mean, in terms of the comedy, it had a lot of funny moments. I mean, there's a lot of moments that were either using sexual references or just plain funny jokes that were using the mirrored scene to find out how, to have fun with the joke, and that was really fun. Like one scene, kind of reminiscent of Batman a little bit, is where the Dragonfly, Rick Riker, is perching on the gargoyle at the top of a building or something like that. I don't know where he is exactly. Because I was looking at a kind of tower, and he's perching, and we see and then a Human Torch gets in the way, and it's a little bit awkward. And then of course, Human Torch is like, "Oh, this is my power, flame on!" And then suddenly he's the Human Torch, and then he realizes he's on fire. And it's like, why didn't he learn that soon enough? Like in the comics or in the movies or whatever, it's like he would have known that by now. It's like he would have known that he's on fire, but the idea is that it actually portrays like, oh, the Human Torch is actually on fire, but in the movies or the comic books, it doesn't really bother him that the fact that he's on fire. And in this movie, because it's a spoof, he realizes he's on fire. So he's like, oh my god, I'm on fire, oh my god, I'm fire. It's like really funny. I mean, maybe the first time I saw it was really funny. Because again, I've seen this a few times to get my head around how to actually talk about it properly. And so when I first saw it, after years and years and years, I don't know how the last time I saw it was. I don't know when, but a while ago. And when I first saw the scene, I thought it was pretty funny. After a while, it's like, meh. I think it's funny, it's a little bit, but like you can't even fly, and he's like, but still, it does actually portray what the Human Torch is. I mean, there's they only feature like two characters from the Fantastic Four, Human Torch and Invisible Girl. Invisible Girl is played by an actress I didn't really know much about, a model named Pamela Anderson. She's supposed to like in the poster she's supposed to be like the hot, girl that Rick Riker Dragonfly has around his shoulders. And I don't know, she's just a model. Most models are attractive, but I think in this way it was a spoof that she's invisible and she's apparently a dog, and it's like really weird. But I think Human Torch was a really fun little addition to there. They want to include a lot of Marvel characters, so that was a really fun nod to that. And like I was describing before about how this movie was an adult film, it is. It's very much an adult film. A lot of sexual references. A lot, especially when at the beginning of the movie, and then when Rick had to tell Jill that he doesn't love her, and then he goes off and sees basically sexual things happen. There's not a lot of swearing, which is good. I don't even know what this movie was rated. I think it might have been rated R, but I don't know. I think it was probably unrated. In fact, I think it probably was because it's a spoof. I think because this is from the same people who made a Scary Movie. Again, I haven't seen those movies. I've just seen this in the posters. That's all I've seen of them. I don't really want to see them. They're scary for a reason. But with this one, but because the movie was probably unrated, they didn't have a lot of swearing in it, surprisingly, because it is a superhero movie. Literally, it's called superhero movie for a reason. And in this movie, they didn't have a whole lot of swearing. They had swearing. They just didn't use a lot of swearing. Like they used, shit was like the one they used more often than not. And then the very end when Hourglass is destroyed, he says, "Oh fuck." Basically, he's like that. He says that, and that's the first time we hear a swear word other than shit, because shit is the only other one we really hear. So, which is very funny a little bit. Like, oh, all we hear is shit. We don't see any more than that. So that was a little funny to hear. And a really cool spoof that was featured in the movie was we get a flashback of Rick's parents. This is after Rick, he chucked away his ring and it comes back to him, hits in the eye, of course, because it's a, comedy, everything's gonna go wrong. And we see a parody of the Batman story of when Bruce Wayne's parents are, when they die, but in this case it's Rick Riker's parents who die, and it's more of a comedic twist on it, because like they come out of opera, the killer wants their money kind of thing. It's the same stories that how Batman's parents died. Except in this case, it's a little more comedic. You have, a gun going off, and you have a headlamp crushing Rick's mom, and then another headlamp crushing Rick's dad, and then it's the same thing, except just a little more comedic in this way. A little more, it's less serious. It's just a lot more comedy going on, and Rick actually apprehends the bad guy, whereas Bruce in that story, he didn't do anything at all because he's a little kid, so he doesn't know any better. But it was really cool to see that kind of in there, because like the whole idea of spoofing a DC story into a superhero movie that isn't Marvel or DC. In fact, towards the very end of the movie, when Dragonfly is apprehending Hourglass, we see HeroCon, which kind of is a fourth wall break, I guess, sort of. And that's just a really silly thing. It's just like this tiny made-up convention in the movie that, again, breaks the fourth wall because it features cosplays of both Marvel and DC characters, which is super weird. And it, of course, features cosplayers of Hourglass and Dragonfly, which is kind of funny. And one of them, this nerd kid, this fat nerd kid, is like, "Oh, this is HeroCon, a convention for heroes and villains. By the way, your costume sucks." When he's talking to the real Dragonfly, it's really quite funny, because that is kind of break the fourth wall, because it's a superhero movie, and yeah, there's an actual superhero convention in the movie, so it was kind of a fourth wall break, a very funny fourth wall break, but still a fourth wall break. And a really kind of weird, funny thing at the beginning of the movie, where, when Rick is running for the bus, he gets on the bus and sits by his friend Trey, who is played by Kevin Hart in this movie. And he points out all the cliche groups. I had to look that up. Apparently, cliche means the groups of people who have the same interests in all that stuff, same hobbies, all that stuff. And you have you come across the same typical people, like the jocks, the nerds, the gothics, and then you have the Frodos, who are literally people dressed as hobbits. In this case, reminiscent of Frodo from Lord of the Rings, obviously. And then you have like the guys who are, look like they're from the mafia, like with the guns. It's funny. It's a really funny movie, honestly. And another kind of funny moment is a really accurate moment. There's a lot of funny moments in this movie. There's a lot of funny moments. I can't talk about all of them because I would be here all day, but you'll have to check the movie out for yourself. It's really funny. There's a lot of really kind of clever jokes in the movie. Just really funny ones. And there's a scene where Rick makes his costume shortly after Mr. Xavier tells him to. And then Trey comes in after he's making his costume, and all the stuff on the floor kind of like accurate representation of how a costume is really made for some people who don't really have skills. Of course, Rick does. And Trey accurately points out some of the flaws in his costume. Like he doesn't, how he's supposed to breathe in the costume, he's supposed to see in the costume, and he's like all freaking out, like I can't breathe because it's kind of parody of Peter Parker's Spider-Man suit. The fact that there's no way he could actually breathe or see in that suit, but he actually can. Like it's no way it's breathable or seeable through. But yeah, it is apparently. You can see there, but it is that it's making fun of that idea of like, oh, you probably should put some holes in that so you can actually breathe and see in the suit. Unlike Spider-Man where he doesn't have anything of that. He has eye things on his mask, but he doesn't. There's no way he can see through that. That's the idea. That's the kind of the funny little joke on that. I would find that really funny. He just kind of like bumping into shit. It's like kind of thing. And last but not least, the two really funny moments in this movie. And again, like I said before, there's a lot of funny moments in the movie, more than I can count. But the two that really made me laugh out loud like a lot was when Aunt Lucille is basically stuffing the chicken for dinner. I'm pretty sure it's a chicken. I mean, it could be a turkey, but I'm pretty sure it's a chicken. And she starts stuffing out all this crap in it, like I think it's a salami stick, like that long, a potted plant, a cat, and a bottle of vodka. And when I saw this movie for the first time in years, because a lot of the movies I see I haven't seen in years, it made me just crack up because it was hilarious. Like you're putting all this shit in there, and then you cover it in wood varnish. It's like there's no way that anyone would eat that. It's like at that point it would be uneatable. Like there's no way that would be edible to eat. You're putting all this stuff in it. You're putting a cat in it. You know, covering it in wood varnish. Putting all this disgusting things in it. Why would anybody eat that? I just kind of found that was really funny. And then the other thing that I found really hilarious was the scene right after dinner when Uncle Lou the Hourglass has to leave because he shat his pants. I know. There's some pretty ridiculous things in the movie, but also just in general really, really funny jokes. And after Rick and Jill, and of course Aunt Lucille have settled down, Aunt Lucille is napping on the couch. You have Rick telling Jill about, how he knows the Dragonfly, and, what Rick told the Dragonfly about her, about how, how beautiful she is kind of thing. And every time he tries to talk further about it, Aunt Lucille starts to fart really bad. It's hilarious. Like that was like when I first saw the scene. I found it really funny because I don't know. Farts are pretty classic. It's like kind of a old school joke. But when it's put in a movie like this, especially a spoof movie like this, it makes it super funny. And so it's like that she keeps farting and it's so funny. And then she turns around and she farts again. And then Rick takes a scented candle, make it make the environment a little more settling because at that point Jill had put in little like nasal things to stuff her nose so she couldn't smell the horrible farts. And so right after that, Lucille farts a big one, like a really big fart, and then it basically lights the candle that's the small flame of the candle goes she just like lights it. It just makes it bigger, and then like for like a second, and then it stops, and then she goes back. It's just like it must be a really big fart and a really strong fart to make it do that. But yeah, in general, I thought this movie was hilarious. This movie, for the first time I saw it, it was hilarious. Maybe not, not the entirety of the movie. I kind of got bored after a while. I figured I'd watch it a few times just so I could wrap my head around how to talk about it properly. And it wasn't a great movie. I think the acting is pretty bad. I've been watching some of the acting, and it's just like doesn't have great acting. The script isn't great. I think that in general, it's just because it's a spoof movie, because the acting's gonna kind of be silly, not taking it seriously. I mean, the movie isn't taking it seriously at all, and so the acting really kind of. I mean, I think the only I mean, the actor didn't do a terrible job. I just think that because it wasn't a great movie. I think that the only actor who actually did a decent job was Drake Bell, and apparently this is his first film role where he actually got to swear for the first time. Like no other film where he got to do that. So, but in general, I think this movie was meh. I have seen better movies than this, obviously, because it was a pretty awful movie. But I think that the takeaway of why this movie, in my opinion, is not unwatchable is because of how funny it is. It's just mainly a funny movie. It's hilarious. I mean, when you first see it, it's hilarious. It's just like this movie. When you see it, you'll laugh a lot. I mean, it's one of those really not great movies, like really like why is this movie even here kind of thing. It's just a really funny movie that is a parody of superhero movies, and you know, just in general wasn't good. It wasn't a good movie, but it was still really really funny, and I really that's why it was an enjoyment to watch, because it was so funny. Because again, there's a billion funny moments in the movie. I can't name them all. There's so many things in the movie that really made me laugh. Just things that were just like wow. I definitely think that the one scene that made me go no, just no, was when we get to meet Xavier's family. I did not like that scene. That was a scene that just made me go no. So that's really all I can say about superhero movie. It's a superhero movie. It's obviously, you know, a parody of superhero movies in general, but in this way, a more comedic one and a more comical one, and it accurately represents what a superhero movie is in terms of, like, you know, how they're portrayed. So I found that really funny. But yeah, overall, it was it was watchable. I just think it's out of some of the worst superhero movies I've seen. This is probably one of the worst. But the only redeemable fact about it was that it was really funny. So that's all I can say about that movie. I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 10. I know that I know it's like, yeah, that's definitely a accurate score to give it, because it was such a. I mean, it wasn't god awful, but it was definitely not great. It definitely on the very low bar of superhero movies. It's just not a. I mean, it's obviously a spoof, but it's a very good spoof in that. A very good bad movie. So that's really all I can say. 4 out of 10, and I'm gonna leave it there. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Reviewed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. I really do appreciate your support. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe for more episodes of this series and other series that I do, as well as other great content. And I'll be back next time with another episode. Alright, see ya.